Listen. This is not motivation. This is activation.
The day your world ended was the day you finally woke up. Imagine waking up on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. You get out of bed, brew your coffee, and look out the window. Everything on the outside looks exactly as it always has. You have the job people told you to want. You are in the relationship that looks steady on paper. Your social media feed paints a picture of a life well lived. But as you stand in your kitchen, a sudden, terrifying silence hits you. It isn't a loud, dramatic failure. No one died, no one left, and your bank account didn't suddenly drop to zero. It's worse. It is a quiet, suffocating unraveling. You look at your achievements, your routine, even the face staring back at you in the bathroom mirror, and a cold realization washes over you. I have absolutely no idea who I am, and none of this means anything anymore. Most people panic when this happens. They think they are broken. But if the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung were standing in your kitchen with you, he would smile gently and tell you something that might shock you. This collapse is not a mistake that needs fixing. It is your soul demanding honesty. Phase 1. The Hollow Foundation. I once knew a man who worked in senior management at a major bank. From the outside, his life was the blueprint of success, a flawless resume, a beautiful apartment, and a clear, predictable path forward. But during a casual dinner one evening, he looked at his drink and whispered, "I still show up to the office every day, but I no longer feel like I'm inside my own life." Nothing tragic had happened to him. The foundation of his identity was still there in shape, but it had become entirely hollowed out. Jung believed that a human being can only maintain outward stability when their external life matches their internal reality. When that mismatch lasts too long, your psyche doesn't ask for your permission to fix it, it begins to violently dismantle what no longer fits. Jung famously wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This quiet collapse is the exact moment your unconscious refuses to stay backstage any longer. The questions you ignored for decades, why am I walking this path? Whose life am I actually living? Start fracturing your reality. Your life was a house built on a foundation laid down by your parents, your culture, and your fears. The cracks aren't appearing because you built it wrong. They are appearing because you are trying to live on ground that no longer belongs to you. Phase 2. The alarms in the soil. When the ground splits beneath our feet, our natural human reflex is to scramble for tape. We look for more motivation, better time management apps, new goals, or a quick vacation. We try to patch a crisis of meaning with surface solutions. Think of Raskolnikov in Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. Before he faced the truth of who he was, he lived entirely inside a self-made intellectual illusion, believing he was above ordinary humanity. It took a complete psychological breakdown, a suffocating and relentless torment, to shatter that false structure. Only when he could no longer run from his own mind did he begin the painful process of becoming a real human being. Jung viewed suffering not as an enemy, but as a biological and spiritual alarm system. "There is no coming to consciousness without pain," he wrote. Imagine your psychological life as a garden. For years you've planted the same trees, watering them faithfully, but eventually the soil loses its nutrients. The leaves turn brown. If you keep throwing fertilizer on top without turning the earth over, the garden dies. The collapse you are feeling right now is the universe forcing your hands into the dirt. It is forcing you to face the parts of yourself you neglected, just to fit in, to be safe, and to be accepted. Phase 3. The departure of the ghost. The most painful part of this journey is realizing that the person you used to be cannot go where you are going next. It requires a quiet, unceremonious death of your old identity. A regular reader once sent me a message that perfectly captured this. He spent his entire life defining himself as the strong one, the man who never complained, who carried everyone else's burdens, and who always kept it together. When his life began to unravel, he tried to do what he always did: endure more, stay silent, and push through. It nearly destroyed him. He wrote to me, "What hurt the most wasn't what I lost. It was realizing that the strong man who had protected me for 30 years could no longer help me live." When your ego begins to shake, you panic because you think you are disappearing. But you aren't disappearing, only a role you played is reaching its expiration date. Jung noted that the greatest problems in life are fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, only outgrown. If you rush to start over too quickly, you will just build another fragile mask. True transformation requires you to sit in the uncomfortable space of not knowing who you are, stripped of your titles and defenses, until you are ready to speak in your own true voice. Phase 4. Befriending the shadow. Once the old self leaves, you enter what mystics call the dark night of the soul. You are suspended in an empty void. And it is here that you must face what Jung called the shadow. The shadow isn't a place of evil. It is the basement of your mind where you locked away everything that didn't fit the perfect image you wanted the world to see. It holds your suppressed anger, your unvetted desires, your wild intuitions, and your raw vulnerabilities. Think of Persephone in Greek mythology. She did not choose to be dragged into the underworld. But once she was there, she didn't allow the darkness to swallow her. She adapted, grew, and eventually became the queen of the underworld, governing the cosmic cycles of death and rebirth. When you enter your own darkness, you don't find a monster. You find the most honest parts of yourself, the parts you sacrificed to be loved by people who didn't even know the real you. If you refuse to look at your shadow, it will bleed into your life anyway. You will project it onto your partner, blame your enemies, and repeat the same toxic relationship loops over and over. Entering the dark isn't about wallowing in misery. It is about standing still in the presence of your unedited truth without rushing to judge it. Phase 5. The slow, quiet rebirth. After you have been brave enough to look into the dark, a strange thing happens. The chaos stops terrifying you. It begins to rearrange you from the inside out. Rebirth does not happen with a loud declaration or a dramatic life makeover. It happens through subtraction, not addition. It happens when you stop wasting your life force maintaining a lie. We cannot change anything unless we accept it, Jung wrote. Think about your mind like a smartphone that you've owned for 5 years. It's cluttered with old photos, background data, and apps you haven't opened in years. The phone starts lagging and the battery drains in an hour. The phone isn't broken, it's just carrying too much dead weight. The path of rebirth is simply clearing the storage. You start sleeping deeper. You eat more slowly. You stop forcing yourself to smile when you are sad. You drop the exhausting habit of constantly proving to the world that you are fine. From the outside you look exactly the same. But inside, the engine has changed. You don't rebuild your life with the same old blueprints that caused the collapse in the first place. You allow a truer structure to form through small, patient, honest choices. Phase 6. The return to the true self. At the end of this long, winding road, you arrive exactly where you started, but you see it for the very first time. Jung beautifully stated, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." He didn't call it a duty or a goal. He called it a privilege, because most people die pretending to be someone else. Imagine a river that has been blocked by logs, rocks, and debris for decades. The water still moves, but it fights the obstacles, creating violent undertows, whirlpools, and noise. If you clear away the debris, you don't need to teach the river how to flow. It already knows. It naturally finds its way to the ocean. You don't need to learn how to live. You just need to clear away the expectations, the old guilt, and the fake identities that are blocking the current inside you. When everything in your life collapses, it feels like an ending. But through Jung's lens, collapse is the greatest gift you will ever receive. It is the moment the universe refuses to let you live a lie any longer. It strips away your mask, cracks open your ego, and forces you to step into the terrifying, magnificent freedom of your true self. Sometimes, beginning again doesn't require you to take a massive leap forward. It simply requires you to stop, drop the heavy armor you've been carrying, and finally dare to live truthfully.